Order. I believe it's about 9:06. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Mendocino Local Agency Formation Commission of May 4th, 2020. And all this connecting up has been difficult, so I thank everyone for their patience. So we will begin, and I ask the commission clerk to administer the roll call, please.
Good morning. This is Kristen Meadows, clerk for the Mendocino Local Agency Formation Commission. Commissioner Ort. I'm seeing your thumbs up. Thanks so much. Commissioner Ward.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez. All right, I see you.
Okay, I'm here. Sorry.
Thank you. Commissioner Ignacio. All right, I see you. Thank you. Commissioner McCowan.
Here.
And Commissioner Bazzani.
Here.
Commissioner Huff sends his apologies, and also noting the following staff are participating: Uma Hinman, Executive Officer; Larkin Filer, Analyst; and our legal counsel, Mr. Scott Brown.
And this is Chair Brown, and I am here.
Yes.
Is there a reason why I'm not able to unmute myself through this meeting? I mean, why are we being silent?
I apologize. I just corrected that. I'm sorry.
All right, thank you.
All right, and Chair Brown, I believe we have a quorum.
Okay, thank you very much. So in response to the COVID-19 pandemic emergency, our meeting today, as you well know, is being held remotely by video and teleconference. Public viewing is via the live stream video link, which is available on the county's YouTube channel. The link is noted on our agenda of today, and our website is www.mendolafco.org/meeting-documents. All commissioners and staff are participating remotely through Zoom. We ask all participants to be on mute when not speaking. We've established procedures for public input by email and teleconference with directions noted at the top of today's agenda. Any public calling in wishing to speak during the public comment periods will be placed in a virtual waiting room and called upon in turn. To help us accurately record today's meeting and actions, we'll employ the following points of order. The chair will call on each commissioner individually for comment and discussion in an orderly fashion. Commissioners making motions are asked to state their name for the record. Staff will be asked if any public comment has been received during each item. And all the written and emailed comments to be read into the record during the meeting should be less than 500 words in length. So I don't know if we received comment via email. All written comments will be posted on our website under the agenda following the meeting. All call-in participants will be allowed to enter the meeting one at a time, asked to state their name for the record, and offered the opportunity to address the commission for up to 3 minutes. All actions requiring a vote will be conducted by roll call, as we usually do. I ask staff and commissioners to assist me if I miss a point in the process of this public meeting. If there's a long pause like last time, please remind me I'm on mute. So we will go forward, and we are now at public comment. This is the time for any member of the public to address the commission on any matter not on the agenda, but within the commission's area of jurisdiction. Comments on any item that is listed on the agenda should be given at the time that that item is being discussed by the commission. So, do we have staff? Do we have public comments for items not on the agenda? Have they been received, or do we have someone in the waiting room?
Chair Brown, this is Executive Officer Hinman. We have received no comments to this item written. We do have one guest in the waiting room who has not indicated the item they are interested in speaking to. So I suggest bringing them forward to ask for this item.
Please do so.
Hello, this is Executive Officer Hinman, and this is our member of the public who wishes to speak during the public expression.
Hi, this is Trey Strickland with Mendocino County Environmental Health. My phone number ends with 625. I didn't call in to intend to speak, but I wanted to listen in on the item 6A conversation.
Thank you very much. We will put you in the waiting and bring you back for that item. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, welcome, Trey. We're all in a new world together. So, moving on to item number 3, other business. I'll ask each commissioner if there's any other business not included on the agenda that they'd like to speak to. And we'll start with Commissioner Orth.
No item.
Commissioner Ward.
No.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
No.
Commissioner Ignacio.
No, thank you.
Commissioner McCowan.
No.
Commissioner
No.
County.
No.
Okay, then moving forward, we go to consent, and that's number 4 on our agenda. We have 2 items on today's consent calendar. The first is 4A, approval of the April 6, 2020 regular meeting minutes. I will go through each of the commissioners to see if they have comment. And we'll start with Commissioner Ward.
Yes, I do. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I actually had another business, but I will talk about it later. But apparently I'm not muted or unmuted, so I'm not getting through very good. I can't hear everybody as well. But anyway, back to the minutes. I like to pull the approval of April 6 minutes. I had a question or a correction on page 5 of 123 in the third bullet from the top, on the top. It shows that our current contract for our legal counsel is 2 hours per month. It's actually 3 hours per month. And I would like to talk about the increase in the legal fees in the future at a future agenda. That's all the comments I had on the minutes.
Okay, and I would like to go forward, Commissioner Gonzalez.
No comments.
Commissioner Ignacio.
No comment.
Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So on page 5 of 123 of the minutes, I think the minutes are accurate for what they say, but I think they're incomplete. So after initial discussion with a recommended apportionment of fees of $160,000, I did make an argument in favor of a lower apportionment of $150,000. And my recollection is we went back through the commission, and I recall there being broad support for an apportionment of $150,000. The minutes do correctly note a bit further on that Commissioner Ward agreed that $150,000 would be sufficient. So again, I'm just making the point, I believe the minutes are a bit incomplete.
Okay, I'll come back to you for a suggestion on how to change them. Commissioner Orth.
No comment.
Okay, and as chair, this is Commissioner Brown. I just wanted to note that on page 6 of 123, under item number 7, fifth bullet point under Commissioner Ward's questions, it has been confirmed with the certificate of insurance by our executive officer. I believe Commissioner Ward and I both received the insurance certificate. So that question has been answered. Commissioner McCowan, I'd like to go back to you for verbiage change.
I think we should, thank you, Madam Chair. I think we should ask staff if they concur or not with my recollection. So I'm not stating that I'm 100% certain, but I think I'm accurate, but it may be something that we ask staff to review and report back.
Okay, so the suggestion is to put the April 6th regular meeting summary on hold until June and have staff report back at that time?
Well, unless they have a clear memory and would like to weigh in, I think we should ask them what their response is.
Okay, we will go to staff then, and I'm not sure if Uma would like to speak first.
Thank you, Chair Brown. My recollection is we did do a straw poll and asked for commissioner feedback on the apportionment fees, and they ranged from 150 to 165,000. I don't have the breakdown, but can look into that and bring the meeting minutes back at the June 1st meeting.
Would that be sufficient for you, Commissioner McCowan?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. So direction of the chair, so we'll look into the minutes and what was actually done with the straw poll and the amounts, and the April 6, 2020 meeting summary will come back at our June meeting. So moving along to item 4B, approval of the April claims and financial report. I'm going to pause for just a minute. I forgot to ask, do we have any of our other alternates on today on Zoom?
We do not.
Okay, just wanted to make sure because I need to note that as we get further into the agenda. So item 4B, the April claims and financial report. We'll start with Commissioner Gonzalez. Do you have comment?
No comment.
Okay. Commissioner Ignacio?
No comment.
Commissioner McCowan?
No comment.
Commissioner Vanzani?
No comment.
Commissioner Orth?
No comments, so I'll go ahead and make the motion to approve agenda item 4B.
I will come back to you because we have not gone to Commissioner Ward.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no problem with the claims. I just wanted to bring up that we have not received any deposit from the Uyghur issue. So I was hoping that we get that taken care of. Actually, the deposit or the negative deposit increased for the month. So I know that we're not going to file the Board of Equalization till that's done, but it's been over 2 months now. I'd like to get that rectified. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner, and the chair will discuss that with staff, and hopefully we'll have that taken care of by our June meeting. Commissioner Orth, you have a motion, sir?
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve the financial report and claims for April 2020, agenda item 4B.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, and your name, please?
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Gonzalez seconds.
Thank you. Okay, staff, we have a motion and a second. Do you have that recorded?
This is Kristen Meadows, the clerk. Yes, I do have that recorded.
So we'll do a roll call vote.
All right. Commissioner Bazzani,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes. Okay. Moving forward, on the, on the consent, we didn't have any public input. I think I asked.
We have no one waiting in the waiting room other than the ones who've spoken wanting to weigh in on 6A.
Thank you. Okay, moving forward to item 5 on our agenda. This is a public hearing. It's on the proposed budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020-2021. This item is being considered today. We have had 2 previous meetings where there was more discussion on the budget. So I'm going to ask for a staff presentation, please.
Thank you, Chair Brown. This is Executive Officer Hinman. The Commission held 2 workshops on the preliminary budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020-2021 during its March 2nd and April 6th regular meetings. For discussion from the Commission, staff and Treasurer Ward refined the budget to respond to anticipated COVID-19 conditions and distributed a modified preliminary budget and work plan to member agencies. The distribution to the agencies was a budget of $167,150, funded by $160,000 in apportionment fees, with the remainder being drawn from reserves. A number of assumptions associated with the COVID emergency were employed to achieve this modified preliminary budget, including continued remote meetings for the first 6 months of the new fiscal year, which would result in a cost savings in meeting mileage reimbursements. And it also assumes no commissioner or staff attendance to the CALAFCO conference. I'd like to note that the conference is still being planned for Monterey in October, and if it is canceled, may move to webinar workshops, which would have an associated cost. However, in recognition of the fiscal impact of the COVID emergency to our member agencies, we have proposed no participation in the conference this year. Since distribution of the preliminary budget and work plan, staff has continued to gain a clearer picture of the impacts of the COVID emergency on the current fiscal year operations and work plan efforts. And as a result, an updated financial summary and budget projection is summarized in Table 1 of the staff report on page 16. Background materials for those projections are included in Attachment 1, which is page 20 of your agenda packet. The changes in projections are limited to 2 accounts. The basic services account 5300 is anticipated to increase by approximately 3,000 due to staff response and adjustment to the COVID-related changes in operations. And the work plan, which is account 7,000, has been further reduced to reflect additional delays in the MSR sphere update efforts for 2 of the agencies, which will necessitate continuing both updates into the next fiscal year. As a result, the proposed budget has been further reduced to $161,650, and the work plan updated accordingly. Staff recommends establishing apportionment fees at $160,000, which will allow us to maintain approximately $82,000 in operational and legal reserves. Because we have such a streamlined budget, staff feels keeping the reserves intact as much as possible will be critical to allowing us to respond to unfunded mandates, unanticipated operational needs during these uncertain times, and also to allow the Commission to respond to potential work plan issues that may result in costs higher than estimated. No comments have been received from our member agencies as of 8 a.m. this morning. We do not have any public waiting in the waiting room at this time to speak to this item. Staff is recommending adoption of Resolution 19-2003, approving the proposed budget and work plan for fiscal year 2020-2021 with a budget of $161,650 and apportionment of $160,000, and is requesting direction to notice a public hearing on June 1st to consider the final budget and work plan. And that concludes my presentation. Chair Brown?
Sorry, I was on mute. Oh, apology. I heard you say that we have no one in the waiting room and we have not received any public comment. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and I'll be asking each of the commissioners separately for input. And we're going to start with Commissioner Ignacio.
I found the staff's report very beneficial, and I would recommend that we adopt. Thank you.
Moving forward, Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So the resolution refers to attachment A. However, I didn't see an attachment A attached to the resolution. And I would refer us to page 18 of 123, where it shows a range of options for the apportionment fees. And I do support adopting this budget with the apportionment fees of $150,000, the balance necessary to meet the proposed expenditures would be withdrawn from the reserves. I think that's a very prudent approach that both protects the financial sustainability of LAFCO, but acknowledges the very significant budget impact to most of our member agencies in the coming year and limits the increase in the apportionment. So that's what I would hope we would all support in recognition of the very hard times ahead for most of our member agencies.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bizzani.
I would have to agree with Commissioner McCowan.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Orth.
Yes, I'll go either way. I'll go with what I'm hearing from other commissioners, but I continue to support the 160 up to this time as proposed.
Commissioner Ward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Originally, I agreed last month with that we could reduce it to 150 from 160, mainly because I believe there were some other expenses that we could be minimized. I agree with the staff's report on the 160. However, I believe we could go to 150 with the understanding that we drop our reserve account for legal fees from 35 to 25. That would make up the loss, and I would feel more comfortable with the 150. Although UMA has made some pretty good arguments in the last few weeks with me to have it at 160, but I believe based on what Commissioner McCowan has said about COVID coming up with all the districts in the city, that the 150 this year would be best. And next year we consider increasing our apportionment fees accordingly. Thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
I would have to concur with Commissioner Ward. I just think, given that some of the aid to cities hasn't come through and counties at this point, that I think taking that approach towards our agencies would be the best thing. And I think it gives us that cushion that Commissioner Ward talked about in case we have to deal with something.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to ask staff, I think I've called on everyone, so it's my turn to speak. I'd like to ask about the 6,500 and the large increase with our insurance and the general liability. I believe that's due on July 1st. Do we have an explanation? Have we received one back as to why the increase was so significant?
This is Executive Officer Hinman. The reason given in the letter from SDRMA was just an overall increase in catastrophic wildfires and global issues that has resulted in insurance increases across the board.
Okay, thank you. And I'm like Commissioner Orth. I support the 160. I understand it is a significant increase than what we had, but we had significant reserves. We knew this day was coming. It's unfortunate that we're in the situation that we are, but I cannot support less and taking out of our reserve funds. And also, I'm very supportive of having legal counsel. We have a number of MSRs, SOIs, and also other issues that I think we are going to need increased legal counsel advice. So that's where I stand. I will open it up for a motion or further comment.
Unless Uma has something she wants to say, I would like to talk about the impact on reserves. I make this discussion.
Okay. Could you state your name, please?
Scott Brown, I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir.
Yes. Having a $25,000 legal reserve would not be adequate in the event that LAFCO is sued. We would easily run through 25,000 in less than a fiscal year. And in fact, depending on the timing of things, I generally recommend to all my LAFCOs that you have at least a cumulative reserves of 100,000 at all times. And this is because I have actually experienced a situation in Nevada County where after the 2008 recession, the commission reduced the reserves dramatically and reduced the budget. And then someone who knew that they had done so sued LAFCO in order to use that as leverage to gain what they wanted through the LAFCO process. And LAFCO ended up having to go to the Board of Supervisors to ask for a loan, because if you have no way to augment your budget during the course of the year. And fortunately, their relationship with the Board of Supervisors was very good, and the board agreed to do it. But the Board of Supervisors has no obligation to do it. And so I just think as a matter of prudence in operation of a public agency, it is advisable for you to not reduce your reserves if at all possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any other commissioners?
John McCowan. Hello, Madam Chair. It's very confusing. I've been self-muting and unmuting, and yet apparently I'm overridden at headquarters, so it's hard to tell when I'm on and when I'm not. However, I think we have very adequate reserves. Even if we make this change that's proposed, we will have reserves roughly equal to half of our annual budget. I don't think we will find ourselves in the situation described for Nevada County. And I also think that we could look at some of these proposed expenses. For instance, we had discussion last month about the legal fees and the need to increase them. And the argument is made, we're going to have these complicated issues coming forward. Well, by policy, as we found with the Wager detachment, we expect the applicants who are the cause of the extra work and complexity to pay for it. So I don't even agree that we need an increase in the legal budget that as proposed, since we can pass those charges on to the agency creating the need for it. Again, I think we should be mindful of the impact to all of our member agencies, some of whom are going to definitely be struggling, including the county, including the cities, many of the districts. We're already proposing a significant increase if we go from the 135 to the 150. I think the 150 allows for a very prudent reserve, puts LAFCO at no risk. We'll be in a lot better shape than all of our member agencies. So I would move adoption of the resolution with the adjustments necessary to reflect a $150,000 apportionment.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it. Commissioner Ward seconds it.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Yes. Tony Orth.
Okay, Tony.
Well, I do believe we had a comment from a lawyer representing the city of Ukiah that argues with John's statement that we can force the applicants to pay for the additional legal charges. And I'm concerned that we would spend what we're saving, the $10,000, just in arguing that point. End of comment.
Any other comment to the motion?
Madam Chair, this is Executive Officer Hinman. I have a comment.
Please make it.
Regarding Commissioner McCowan's comment about the applications that cause the legal counsel participation, we do bill that out separately. The increases, what doesn't get billed out is when we are preparing municipal service reviews and sphere of influence updates or responding to Public Records Act requests. These are all anticipated to increase in controversy in the next year or two. So those would not be able to be billed to any entity, agency outside of LAFCO. I just wanted to make the point.
Thank you. Commissioners, any comment to the statement by our executive officer?
This is John McCowan. My motion does not reduce the proposal for legal fees. So the only change is to reduce the apportionment, and consequently the additional funds would come from reserve. But I think we still have adequate reserves at that level. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anyone else?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ignacio.
Yes, sir.
I believe we've heard from our staff that we employ our trust into researching these difficulties. It's been pointed out many times by other commissioners and appreciated by both commissioners and the member agencies that our reliance on staff to give us accurate information, as well as reliance on our legal counsel to advise us on situations that can keep us out of trouble. I do not support the motion that's on the floor. I would like commissioners to remember that spending from a reserve should not be a line item in the budget. There have been a number of expenditures that we've had to account for that were higher than proposed budgets. We spoke last month on the inability to adjust and ask for more money through the budget year. We can adjust and move budgets at the 6-month review, but actually coming up with more money, we just can't adopt more money. So I still stand in opposition of the motion, and I would still support the 160 if we have an opportunity to go forward. Thank you.
Okay. And I, as chair, would like to state my position is the same as yours, Commissioner Ignacio. So we do have a motion.
Well, Madam Chair, if I may, to Commissioner Ignacio's comments, the reason you have a reserve is if unforeseen events occur and you need to draw on your reserves to cover that. So to say that we're unable to raise money is not entirely accurate. We're in fact unable to raise the apportionment, but we can certainly draw from reserves in the unlikely event that we have extraordinary circumstances that require it. Again, that's why you have reserves. Thank you. And ours are stronger than any of our member agencies, I'm confident.
Okay, we're going to have a roll call vote. Clerk?
Madam Chair, a chance to respond?
Yes, sir. Sorry about that.
That's all right. Commissioner Ignacio, to Commissioner McCowan's statement, you're right, unforeseen, that's what the reserve's for, and for difficult times. But the budget that's being proposed by staff is what they're anticipating, the foreseen, and they're just asking for balanced numbers to cover that. Thank you.
Madam Chairman?
Yes, state your name, please.
Commissioner Gonzalez. May I address the maker of the motion?
Yes, sir.
Commissioner McGowan, would you be willing to change your motion to 155 as a compromise? As a
well, thank
that
you.
Gives
for
it
the
kind of splits the. So that was it.
Thank you for the.
Go forward, Commissioner McCowan.
Thank you. So I appreciate the suggestion, but I really think we're splitting hairs. And even if we adopt the budget with the 150,000 apportionment, that only puts us 2,500 below our target reserve balance. So I'll also point out in the current year, it's projected that we will underspend our approved budget by $18,000. As we have every year, I don't believe we've ever had a year where we've actually met the expended budget. So the reality is we will always continue to have more money on hand than our reserve policy dictates. I would prefer to vote on the 150, and if that fails, we can certainly have another motion. Thank you.
Okay, let's go forward with a roll call vote. Clerk?
This is Clerk Meadows. Commissioner Ignacio.
That'll be a no.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Ward.
Yes.
Commissioner Orth.
No.
Commissioner Bazzani.
Yes.
Chair Brown.
No.
Thank you.
Do I get to vote?
Oh, I'm so sorry, Commissioner McCowan.
Well, I will vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so sorry.
Otherwise, it would have been a tie vote. Okay, so moving forward, actually, we need to state that our June meeting will be the actual public hearing on our proposed budget for the upcoming year. And I we need to direct staff to notice the public hearing for the final budget and work plan.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes, sir.
for the record, can we have the results and line item, or I mean, the report on the vote, please?
Okay. I thought I'd done that, but I'll let the clerk do it.
Thank you.
So this is a little embarrassing. My apologies. I don't think I was actually able to record every single vote. I will do my best, and commissioners, please feel free to chime in if I make a mistake. So I believe Chair Brown was a no. Commissioner Orr, was that yes or no? I apologize. That was a no.
Chair Brown.
This is Executive Officer Hinman. If I may step in, it was a 3 no and 4 yes. For no votes, we had Commissioners Ignacio, Orth, and Chair Brown. For yes, we had Commissioners Ward, Cowan, and Gonzalez.
So we can assume the motion passes then, and the budget is adopted to move forward, correct?
It's not adopted, sir. We have our final consideration for adoption will be on June 1st.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we need to do the public noticing.
Yep.
And then hold the final public hearing.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Absolutely, sir. Okay, moving forward, we are to workshop items, and this is number 6. This is a workshop on the Mendocino City Community Service District Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update. This workshop is the beginning of this process. The Commission will review and discuss the draft and welcomes public comment on the document. No action on the MSR or SOI will be considered at this meeting, and the report, the final, will be brought back at a later date for approval. So I'd like to go forward with the staff presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Executive Officer Hinman. I wanted to note for the record that alternate Commissioner Winkle has entered the meeting at about 9:40 a.m. And I'm going to turn it over to our analyst, Larkin Filer, for the presentation.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is a workshop for the draft Municipal Service Review and Sphere of Influence Update for the Mendocino City Community Services District. As background, the district was formed in 1970 and encompasses the coastal community of Mendocino, which is an unincorporated area. The district boundary is 1 square mile in size and is located 9.5 miles south of Fort Bragg on the Mendocino headland. The district provides wastewater, groundwater management, and street lighting services. In 2008, the Commission adopted a reduced sphere for the district to reflect the area that the district's wastewater treatment plant and groundwater resources have the capacity to serve. There have been no changes to the district boundary or sphere since 2008. The district's SOI is recommended to be reduced to a coterminous sphere, which is the same as the agency's jurisdictional boundary, based on limited projected growth for the area and low demand for district services. The district's 2008 sphere boundary has been designated as an area of interest on Figure 2.1 of the study to further emphasize and support the district in requesting consideration from Mendocino County regarding discretionary land use entitlements or other development plans with the potential to impact district lands, facilities, and services. A public comment letter received from Ed Powers and a response letter from LAFCO staff were included in the packet and addresses an area located north of the district boundary on Road 500D. Road 500D was addressed as a study area under section 4.1.2.2 of the study to document failing septic systems in this area and landowner interest in annexation to the district and provision of wastewater service, which would require annexation of approximately 9 intervening parcels to the district boundary line and costs associated with extending wastewater infrastructure. In response to Mr. Powers' letter, staff conducted additional analysis to determine whether this area meets the definition of a disadvantaged unincorporated community, or DUC, based on updated economic information from the U.S. Census Bureau, which showed the district and surrounding areas do not meet the income threshold to qualify as a DUC. After writing the staff report, an additional public comment letter was received from Stephen Gomes, Paul Clark, and Barbara Reed, and has been provided to the Commission for review. This letter states that the district does not have the powers of a water replenishment district and addresses concerns regarding the district's public hearing process currently underway to adopt groundwater extraction permit and water shortage contingency plan ordinances. Also, additional comments received from Mr. Powers and Stephen Gomes were received and provided to the Commission this morning, and staff has not had time to review them yet. We also received the following requested revision from Commissioner Huff. On page 50 of 123 in the packet, the last paragraph of section 2.3.6, and page 98 of 123 in the packet under policy 4.13-24, update the ownership information for the old grammar school property known as Friendship Park from Mendocino Coast Recreation and Park District to Mendocino Unified School District, which is currently leased or rented by Mendocino Community Center. We received apologies from district staff for not being able to attend this meeting as they are preparing for District Board of Directors meeting today. We are requesting your comments and revisions on the draft Mendocino City CSD MSR SOI update and direction to notice the matter for public hearing as soon as feasible for further consideration. That concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer questions.
Okay, Ross, I think that we probably need to hear from the public first. And since this is a virtual meeting, they may have statements or comments that the commissioners will be asking staff about. I'm sorry that no one from the district is here. Did I hear you say they have a meeting tonight, and that is the reason?
That is correct. They're preparing for a public hearing item for their meeting this evening at 5 o'clock.
Okay, that's very unfortunate that we do not have them available to hear this comment. So I think we will go first to public comment, and I believe Mr. Powers is on the line.
Thank you. I'll admit. Mr. Powers?
Hello?
We hear you.
Hello?
Mr. Powers, we hear you.
Okay, should I go ahead and speak? Or?
Yes, and state your name for the record, sir.
Okay, my name is Ed Powers. Hello, this is Ed Powers. Yes.
You're on, sir. Please go forward. You have a minute.
Okay, yes, this is Ed Powers, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Madam Chair, I believe the speaker is having a lag issue because he's watching the YouTube in the background at the same time he's speaking, and there's a 10 to 15 second delay. So if you can mute that and just talk on the phone, that'd be helpful.
Thank you. Did you hear that, Mr. Powers?
I did. I'm not sure. Do you want me to call back? Is that what?
No, I don't want you to call back. You're having the echoing from the Zoom, but you're also on the phone. Is that correct?
Yes, but I walked away from the, you can turn it off, from the Zoom. So I'm happy to answer any questions that there are on the letter that was sent out this morning. I know it's kind of long, but and I don't know if everyone's had a chance to review it, but other than that, I think the letter is pretty self-explanatory.
Okay, I will, at the discretion of the chair, do any of the commissioners have questions of Mr. Powers? And if you have not had time to read the letter in length, it appears without the district here to also respond to commissioners' questions that it appears this is going to be continued, a continued workshop. So we could digest the letter that was sent in by Mr. Powers and have those questions at our June 1st meeting. So commissioners?
Madam Chair,
Commissioner McCowan.
I'll defer. I think someone else was trying to get on.
That's okay. You please speak.
Okay. So I would like to clarify, the proposal is to reduce the SOI to make it coterminous with district boundaries, and the area that had been designated SOI would instead be shown as area of interest. Is that accurate so far?
Staff?
That is correct. This is Analyst Filer. That is correct, Commissioner McCowan.
And that is based, I believe, primarily on input from the district, where the district stating that that is their preferred approach.
Madam Chair, in response to Commissioner McCowan's question, yes, it was a combination of feedback received from the district stating that there's no planned, development. There's projected low growth and demand for services. And in addition, we looked at our policy 10.1.4.A for reduced spheres, which basically indicates that land that is outside the affected agency's jurisdictional boundary but has been within the sphere of influence for 10 or more years may be considered for reduction. And so this area and the SOI qualify, the 2008 sphere qualifies for reduction based on that policy as well.
Thank you. And then are all of the areas shown in pink, which I believe are to be designated areas of interest, were all of those previously shown to be as the sphere of influence?
That is correct.
And then it looks like there might have been a tiny glitch on the map. There's heavy lines that I think would indicate sphere of influence that cover three sides of one of the parcels now shown as area of interest. That's probably just a bit of a glitch. It's out toward the eastern boundary on figure 2.1.
Commissioner McCowan, are you referring to there's kind of a hatched line along the district boundary?
Well, there's a parcel just east of Gurley Lane that has a heavy line going up two sides of it, which looks like that would be sphere of influence designation, but then it has the dotted line on its eastern boundary that would show area of interest, and it's colored as if it were area of interest. So I'm just trying to verify that parcel is intended to be designated area of interest.
I believe it is, but I will take a closer look. When we return, we'll report back.
Okay, I need to call a point of order. I appreciate all your comments, Commissioner McCowan, and questions, but Mr. Powers, we're going to take any questions in response to him being attending the meeting. And so I wanted to receive all the public comments, and then we'll go to commissioners' questions and comments.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Excuse me, this is Mr. Powers. May I speak for a moment?
Yes, sir, because your letter is very long. You took about, I don't know, half a minute. So I can let you go forward, and then I'm going to have the commissioners ask questions of you if they have them. Please go forward.
Okay. In terms of the capacity of the sewer district, I'd like to point out that by staff's own analysis, and I assume that's based on the sewer district's report, there is an excess capacity of approximately 400, actually I think 385 hookups that are potentially available. And in terms also of the need for those hookups, the area along Lansing as well as 500D, which are contiguous, are all developed and all, to my knowledge, using septic systems, and at least along 500D, all of those septic systems have been put in as non-standard because of failures of the septic systems. So I really would be surprised why the area would be reduced as opposed to included, especially because of the excess capacity that is available and the obvious need for a sewer system to function in that area. And there is a line, I might mention, that is a 4-inch pressurized line that runs in front of all of the parcels, even the 500D parcels along Lansing and over to the sewer district. Thank you.
So there was a commissioner that, did you have a question of Mr. Powers? Hearing no questions of Mr. Powers. Thanks, sir, for your public comment. And we'll put you back into the visitors room. And I'd like to go forward with others that are waiting in the waiting room. Miss Barbara Reed. Hearing no questions of Mr. Powers. Thanks, sir, for your public comment. And we'll put you back into the visitors room. And I'd like to go forward with others that are waiting in the waiting room. Miss Barbara Reed.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I'm Barbara Reed. I live in Mendocino, the town. I've lived there for a very long time. We have submitted a letter, Paul Clark, myself, and Steve Gomes, and that letter is dated May the 1st. If you would like me to read the letter, I can, but if you have it in your packet, unless you have questions, I'll move on. Are there any questions?
Just move on with all your comment at the end. We will come back to you with questions.
Okay, that's great. The first thing that I'd like to cover is the history in your book, the big, I call it the big book, the Mendocino City Community Services Sphere of Influence Update. On page, well, actually it's item 2.1.1.1 background. It says that in the third paragraph, to this day, the community continues to rely on private wells for water supply. It fails to mention that there are 3 private mutual water companies also within the sewer district. For these 3 subdivisions, Point of View Estates, Hills Ranch, and Big River Vista. These mutual water companies are controlled by the state water resources. MCCSD has no jurisdiction over these mutual water companies. However, their residents, because they're in the sewer district, are allowed to vote on our private well issues. The third paragraph in that same section, it says in 1987, the legislature passed Water Code sections 10700 and 10717, which authorized the district to function as a water replenishment district and to establish programs for the management of the groundwater resources within the district. MCCSD has never applied to LAFCO for to form a water replenishment district. So my first question is, has MCCSD ever applied to LAFCO for a water district, a replenishment district? And then on paragraph 3.3 of the same document, your review, point 2.1.1.1, there's no mention, again, there's no mention of this private, of these private mutual water companies. Then on 3.3.2, the water demand, 800 population, there is 800 population in this, and then in the summer, there's 3,500 population. This is exaggerated. From the town plan, there are 237 rooms, hotels, inns, bed and breakfasts. If you double that for double occupancy, it would come to 474 people. If these inns were full, and they're not except on some weekends or holidays. If you add in the possible 50 estimate for single unit rentals and vacation home rentals, the total would be 524. So you add that to the 800, and the most it could be is 1,324 population if every room was full. The only time possibly would be, it could possibly be 3,500, would be on the 4th of July with people walking around, not staying over. MCC, now the rest of this is comments. The total would be MCCSD held a special meeting to adopt new ordinances this past month. We had 7 working days to deliver opposition letters from 50% of the voters. We were denied a list of voters to work from. This is an impossible task. Steve Gomes was just awarded $198,000 for attorney fees from a court prevailing against the district, primarily for procedures. And here they are again, rushing to adopt the same ordinances the court has just turned down. And we're in the middle of a pandemic with questionable noticing. I have been on the MCCSD's mailing list for their agenda and meeting notices for many years, but they did not send me a notice for the April 16th, 2020 meeting. I found out there was a meeting through Facebook. I let them know, so the next meeting, they did send me one. But here we are again. They're having a meeting tonight, and I have not received a notice again. So there's questionable noticing. I think that's all I had to cover. Now there's Steve Gomes is in the room. and has a presentation, and Paul Clark may have something.
Go ahead, take questions from the board.
Pardon me?
Take questions. From
Hang on, please.
Oh, they'll do questions at the end.
Okay, so you'd each like to speak, you're in the same room. You'd each
We're
like,
6 feet apart.
okay. You would like to each give your comment and then wait till the very end. So, Mr.
Unless
Holmes,
somebody has questions.
hang on. I will ask that. Thank you. Do any commissioners have questions of Mrs. Reed? Commissioners? Hearing none, we'll move on. And Mr. Gomes, and please state your name for the record and know you have 3 minutes.
Okay, yeah, thank you. This is Steve Gomes, and I've been involved in Mendocino for most of my life, and have property there that my grandfather purchased in 1925. Since 2015, the district chose to pass a ordinance that came effective in 14, and we filed that lawsuit in 2015, based on the fact that they were basically confiscating the private water rights to 200 wells that were never under the jurisdiction or of the MCCSD. They claimed a water crisis, and we had a few days to file that action, so we had to file the action. Unfortunately, I mean, I went through all this time, lots of money, but it was not, the fee award is for a little over $128,000, by the way. It was just issued like a week or 10 days ago from the Mendocino Superior Court. And I've included that in the package, and also the, you can view the appellate court decision. But what we're really working with here is, they talk about no water for a water system. There's water there that was donated at one time by Georgia Pacific, but then people at the time in the 1990s, somehow Georgia Pacific was offended by their actions and then did not follow through with deeding them the water source. But the water source is now on state property and is available for Mendocino to have a water system. Today we have a dry spring. It just shows that imported water must be delivered to the Headlands Aquifer, which I sent the maps. I think you've received them, hopefully. Zones 1 and 2, which is the old downtown area. It's the area of concern. The other 3 areas that were identified by the hydrologists are not hydraulically connected to the town, in less than 0.1% connection is what the trial court transcribe says that they. So at this point, I'm talking about formation 2 with the Water Replenishment District and AB 786. I don't think they would use those words in that bill unless it was necessary to refer to as the actual powers that MCCSD received. And it says there's any local agency that's authorized by law to provide water services. And it's our opinion that to be authorized by law to provide water services, which is the sale of water to the public, they must go through formation through CALAFCO in order to have a secondary principal act in order to preserve. Without formation, the private property rights have no protection. And that's what we're after here. And we're after a fair, allotment program for the area that needs it until we get a water system. And I think that we're going to press on with the water system. I've been aware that there's state funds, probably federal funds. The water in the Headlands Aquifer is very shallow and it's subject to contamination. The hand dug wells are contaminated. The fire protection water is not sufficient, and the and the availability of water in that area is just, it runs off the cliffs and it just doesn't hold any water. So anyway, that's my comments, my 3 minutes. Anybody else have any questions for me?
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, do you have individual questions? Any commissioner?
This is John McCowan.
Commissioner McCowan, ask the question.
Yes, Mr. Gomes, is your primary issue that you believe the district should be moving forward with formation of a water district?
Well, actually, I mean, in order for them to manage groundwater, they should have already requested formation to be a water replenishment district, which is basically a water district without pipes. But since they didn't do that all these years, private property rights have a problem. But I believe that ultimately that you will see a municipal water system in Mendocino. If Westport can have one, I think Mendocino can have one.
And are you also saying that until they form a water replenishment district, they may not lawfully adopt the groundwater management program?
Yes, that's what I believe.
Thank you.
Any other commissioner?
Commissioner Ward,
Go forward, please.
I would like the information that was presented to us with the letters from Steve Gomes to put into the MSR SOI. I don't believe there was any mention of the lawsuit or the information that was gathered there, as well as maybe the information, updated information we received this morning from Ed Powers as well.
Okay, that was a statement rather than a question.
Yeah.
Commissioners, anyone else? Hearing no one else, Mr. Paul Clark, would you like to speak? And if so, please state your name for the record and know you have 3 minutes.
Yes, Paul Clark. Briefly, my biggest concern, I am a property owner in the district. From everything I've seen, it appears that the original intent of the district was to, one, get a sewer district, which they did quite fast, actually. And then secondarily, look into a water system. But after 40 years, it's never really happened. And they definitely haven't entered into any kind of a water replenishment. I've provided, and many of us have, some suggestions to them at this point, because basically we're feeling like, as a property owner, our rights are being taken away with this groundwater extraction, because it won't solve the problem. The reality is, sadly, and I've asked the board to take a position on whether or not they want a water district. The answer, I know what the answer is. The answer is no, because this is the best way they've been able to control any growth in the community for all these years. That's the main reason that it does not have a water system. It should, for health and safety reasons, completely. But I hope we have the opportunity to provide any information that you might want, or any documentation that might help. I'm just coming to this recently because I'm very frustrated that I was required, when my wife and I purchased our building under the existing groundwater ordinance, we were required to place a deed restriction on our property when we purchased it, which I took as and I filed it under protest. The records will show that. I took it as a personal violation of our property rights. The deed restriction, I'm told, will be removed because the ordinance has been stricken, but I don't think it's happened yet. But anytime you give someone the authority to put a deed restriction on your property, you may have effects down the line that you have no idea, refinancing, marketing to another person or something like that. So it was a violation, and that's why I'm involved in this. I took it as just that, a restriction on my property rights. And I too available if there's any questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Clark. Commissioners, do you have questions of the speaker? Hearing none, I would like to also ask staff if they have questions of all three of the speakers that just spoke.
Yep. Madam Chair, I'd like to add one thing.
And who's speaking, please?
This is Steve Gomes again. Can I supplement the documents, supporting documents, after this hearing, Chair, after this?
We will have one more, possibly, we'll have a public hearing. This is only a workshop, but since
Yes.
the district is not participating, which I feel is very unfortunate, my recommendation to the commission is that we continue the workshop to our June 1st meeting before we go forward, because we will need district participation at this workshop.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. You can still submit, and we'll go forward from there and see if the commission agrees with me. Staff, do you have any questions?
Madam Chair, this is Analyst Filer.
Yes.
I don't have any questions at this time, but do look forward to working with members of the public and addressing their concerns the best we can in the document.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Ward.
Yes, sir.
Based on this new information we received this morning, and I haven't read any of it, or not all of it anyway. How do we, and you're recommending that we postpone this to our June meeting for the workshop. Can we provide written questions to staff and CC other commissioners?
It would, I wouldn't CC other commissioners. Questions need to go into staff because CCing other commissioners could be a Brown Act violation. So all questions need to go into staff. But my recommendation will be to continue the workshop. And if you have questions, it'd be good to get them in advance. But let us go forward from here. I'm going to see if there's any other public speakers, any other correspondence that's been received by staff. And then we'll go into each commissioner asking questions within the document. Does that work for you, Commissioner Ward?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, our staff, do we have any other correspondence we've received or any other public waiting to speak?
Madam Chair, this is Analyst Filer. It does appear that we have Trey Strickler, the Environmental Health Director, but I believe he just wanted to listen in. I'm not sure if E.O. Hinman has other information, but beyond that, we don't have any other comments beyond what was provided by email this morning.
Okay, Trey?
I did just enter him from the waiting room.
Okay. Thank you. Trey?
Yes, thank you.
Do you have any comment or questions during the public comment period?
Yeah, I don't know that I have any comments to give necessarily. This is the first meeting I've attended with your group. I will just say really quick, similar to an issue in Anderson Valley, that we do have areas that do have where the septic system capabilities are just very poor due to soil conditions. And in those situations, we do have a lot of marginal systems out in certain areas. And in those cases, the problem typically just doesn't ever get better. And so we do encourage, when possible, especially in areas with marginal systems, we definitely encourage, if there is a potential to connect to a municipal system, we certainly encourage that. It's better for everyone in the long run. And I'll leave it at that for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, sir. Staff, do we have anyone else?
Madam Chair, this is Analyst Filer. I do not see any other members of the public in the waiting room.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, and I interrupted Commissioner McCowan. He may have more questions. Commissioner McCowan, would you like to go forward, please?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, a comment or two. So Commissioner Ward had asked that the additional documentation received be included as part of the MSR. I would suggest instead that it be included in the packet going forward as additional public comment. We do have a letter from Mr. Powers at the end of the current packet, as well as staff's response to the questions that he had raised, and that response is on pages 119 through 121. It's a pretty detailed response that I think did cover the questions raised. So, and I certainly agree with you, Madam Chair, of continuing the workshop, but I would like to ask, well, first of all, I think there should be some mention of this controversy within the update. It should be referenced that there's advocacy for forming a water replenishment district. I think the legal issue as to the ability of the district to adopt a groundwater contingency plan and these kinds of things, I think Mr. Gomes' position was upheld by the trial court on that, although the district may limit groundwater extraction. But so anyway, there's complicated legal issues there, and I don't think the purpose of the update is to try and resolve those legal issues. I think it should be acknowledged that they're there, but I would like to ask legal counsel, who I believe may still be on the line, what is the proper role of LAFCO with regard to these legal disputes between certain members of the public and the community services district? It would seem to me that those legal issues of how the district is conducting its meetings, the process it uses to adopt ordinances, compliance with the Brown Act, those are primarily between the public and the district and the courts, or is there a role for LAFCO with regard to those issues? Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner McCowan. Mr. Brown.
Yes, those are very good questions. And yes, under the specific language in Cortese Knox, you are, as part of the MSR, you're to consider accountability to the public. So that issue and those issues are part of what should be considered in an MSR, because they go to the issue of governance, which is a core issue that the MSR is supposed to address. Another issue that has been raised by the comments, and which relates to our jurisdiction, is whether or not the district is proposing to provide a new service. If they're proposing to provide a new service, it requires LAFCO approval. So we need to research whether or not what the district is proposing to do amounts to the provision of a new service subject to the requirement of LAFCO approval.
And thank you, Mr. Brown, and no doubt we would look to your opinion on that question. So I don't think you have to have it today, but certainly for the continuation, I think it would be appreciated.
Very
Okay.
well, we'll look into it.
Commissioner McCowan, do you have further comments or questions on the draft document?
No, I think the document, as we have experienced, is very well done. And the main question is, to what degree should it include references to the potential formation of a water replenishment district and the other issues raised by the public? You know, it does sound from Mr. Brown's comments that there certainly should be some discussion of these issues. Although yeah, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bazzani, do you have any questions or statements to the draft document?
I have no comments.
Thank you, Commissioner. Moving on, Commissioner Orth.
Yes, just because we're going to continue this, I'll hold back some of my questions, but my something that could be addressed between now and then by staff in Mendocino is whether there's any issues with additional connections coming into a pressure main, whether there are technical issues there. How would new connections be able to hook up to a pressure main that is servicing the state park? That concludes my current comments.
Okay, staff.
Yes, Madam Chair. This is Analyst Filer.
Do you have a response to Commissioner Orth, or will you be researching that question?
I do not have information on that particular issue. It is a very good question, and I'll need to consult with the district on that matter.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Ward.
Yes, Madam Chair. I look forward to some responses to the new letter on May 5th from Ed Powers that was addressed to our executive officer. So there's a lot of questions there that I'd like to see come back for when we do reconsider the item. Also, I'll look forward to providing some questions to our staff as well on the letter from Steve Gomes, and I'll have those here shortly. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Gonzalez.
No questions this time. I believe Commissioner McGowan asked what I was thinking, so thank you, Tim.
Okay, thank you very much. Commissioner Ignacio.
I'm going to hold my questions until the continuance, and like Jerry said, a lot of my questions being asked by other commissioners, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will now go forward, and there were in some of the presentations questions asked and a recommendation for changes. One was there was no mention of the private water companies within the sewer district boundaries, and that is for 3 subdivisions, and those were each named. I think there does need to be comment. Moving on about water demand from the population, I do agree with the speaker. The 3,500 people and that's based on looking at the town plan, et cetera, that the only time there would be 3,500 people would be possibly on the 4th of July or other big event that would be held in the town of Mendocino. So I do feel there needs to be consideration for a correction on that. but maybe the district will comment further, and maybe staff will, on how they came up with that number. I'm very concerned about communications that the district has. We all know that distribution lists, or most of us know, on any district or agency, those lists of people and their emails always have to be used and meeting information distributed to them. Appears that has not happened. So again, I want to hear from the district on that because that is a big concern for me with the public. Trying to think of what other questions I have, but certainly another concern is the water replenishment district, and want to hear further as Supervisor Commissioner McCowan has also asked about some of these questions. So that's my input, and I want to go to staff to see if they have any responses to our discussion as commissioners.
Madam Chair, this is Analyst Filer, and I just want to note this has been very good discussion and public involvement during this workshop process. This is the intent of the workshop, and I think it would be best to allow us time to further research all these items and return with responses based on working with council.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to, I think I've gone to everybody that I need to go to, but my recommendation to the commission is going to be to continue the workshop to the June 1st meeting. I'd like to hear comment from the commissioners and their feelings on that.
Move approval of your recommendation, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner McCowan.
I'll second Commissioner Orth.
Thank you, Commissioner. Staff or council, do we need to vote on that, or can it be just chair's direction?
You should vote on that if you're voting to continue this workshop as opposed to moving on to the public hearing for adoption.
Thank you, sir. Any commissioners with any further comment? We have a motion by Commissioner McCowan, and we have a second by Commissioner, I forgot, Ward, right?
Commissioner
Who?
Ward.
Okay, I'm losing it. But we will need to take, clerk, a roll call vote, please.
Yes, this is Clerk Meadows and Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio,
Yes.
Commissioner McCowan,
Yes.
Commissioner Bazzani,
Yes.
Commissioner Orth,
Yes.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Chair Brown.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're going to move forward on the agenda, but it's been a while, and I think staff deserves a little bit of a break, as we all do. So it's approximately 10:42. We'll have a 5-minute break, if that works for everybody. Orth, are you there?
I can see his hand waving. This is Clerk Meadows.
Okay, Commissioner Ward? Okay, Commissioner Gonzalez?
Here.
Madam Chair, I believe, okay, thank you.
Commissioner Gonzalez is here.
Thank you. Commissioner McCowan?
Here.
Commissioner Vazani?
I'm here.
Okay, and staff, I think you're all on?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move forward on our agenda to item number 7, matters for discussion and possible action. There are none. So we're moving on to item number 8, information and report items. We're on 8A. And just for the listening public, these are reports only. So therefore, we'll go to 8A, and we will hear about the work plan, current and future proposals. And I'd like to ask our executive officer to please present her report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll start with active proposals. The waiver application for detachment from the Mendocino Coast Healthcare District. We have sent an accounting to the applicant, Lisa Wager, and we are coordinating with her on the remaining list of requirements that have been sent to the, regarding the mapping review with the county surveyor before we complete the certificate of completion and send that off to the Board of Equalization. We will not do anything further until we receive deposit covering the outstanding amount due plus the amount that we anticipate it will take to finish up the application. There's been nothing new on the Moores annexation to the Irish Beach Water District. The last correspondence we sent to Mr. Moores and the Irish Beach Water District let them know that we would need application materials and further deposits before proceeding. We had one application on hold, and that is the City of Ukiah detachment of Ukiah Valley Sanitation District served areas. Since the agenda packet went out, we did receive a request to restart the application as well as application materials that were identified in the 2015 or 2014 incomplete letter to the city. So we will be reviewing that in the coming weeks and coordinating with the city on that. We have no change to future proposals. We still have the Anderson Valley CSD proposed activation of latent powers to provide water and sewer services. No updates have been received from the district. We'll move down to work plan updates. The County Service Area 3 and the Ukiah Valley Sanitation District MSR sphere updates have stalled due to the COVID-19 emergency. We have not received any responses to our request for information, although we anticipate that this month. Because of those delays, we have initiated the Covelo CSD request for information and data collection efforts. We have received a full response from the district, so we're working on the administrative draft for that document. And that's all I have for updates, unless there are questions.
Commissioners, do you have questions? Commissioner Orth?
No questions.
Commissioner Ward?
No questions.
Commissioner Gonzalez?
No questions.
Commissioner Ignacio?
Good report, no questions.
Thank you. Commissioner McCowan? You're muted, John. Commissioner McCowan?
No, and again, I'm capable of muting and unmuting myself. It's very confusing to hear the repeated, you're muted, you're unmuted, you're muted, you're unmuted. I hope we can correct that for the next meeting.
I agree.
Well, I'll just have to say, sir, or sirs, the fact that I was talking away and realized I had not unmuted myself. So anyway, Commissioner Vazani.
No questions.
Okay, and neither do I. Moving along, we're on 8B, correspondence. It appears none has been received, but since the agenda was posted, I'd like to go to staff to see if they have an update.
No correspondence has been received that has not already been provided to the commission.
Thank you so much. We're on to 8C, EO report. Our executive officer, please go forward.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to start by thanking everyone for their patience with the meeting logistics. We are continuing to work through the bugs. This is the first time we have tried to bring in live participants from the public. Larkin and I had tried to split up the hosting of the meeting, and I think that we've crossed some wires. So we'll continue to work on that. We completed research for a Public Records Act request for the city of Ukiah. We have also, staff is continuing to work remotely and hold meetings by phone. And we have also participated in a conference call with the Mendocino County Farm Bureau staff and committee members to discuss the upcoming City of Ukiah's sphere update. The discussion touched on the process for updating spheres, state and local policies regarding agricultural lands and agency coordination during the update. And we also shared with them the CALAFCO white paper, State of the Art of Agricultural Preservation. I don't have anything further to report, although I would be happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions?
Yes, Commissioner Ward has a question.
Commissioner Ward, please go forward.
I was going to ask it under Commissioner reports, but and I wasn't able to do it under the budget because of this muting and unmuting, but would it be possible to reduce our general liability from 2.5 million to 1 million to save some money? Can we check into that?
I would be happy to look into that with them, yes.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if it'll save any, but I know we had a significant increase in our premiums, so that I don't know if it's necessary to have 2.5 million versus 1 million. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ward. Anyone else? I would just like to say to all our staff that considering this is only your second meeting, I thought you did a very good job, especially bringing in public comment. I know it's very awkward under these circumstances, but we can improve with each meeting, but I appreciate the job that you're doing. Hearing no other commissioners, we'll go on to 8D, committee reports. There are none, but do you have an update? Executive Officer?
We've held no executive committee or policies and procedures committee meetings.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to 8E, commissioners' reports, comments, or questions. I invite each commissioner, and I will call you off to see if you'd like to speak. We'll start with Commissioner Bazani.
I have no comment.
Thank you. Commissioner McCowan.
No comment. Well, I do have one. I completely agree with your comments regarding staff. I think the meeting went very well overall. Good job. Thank you.
Commissioner Ignacio.
No comment, and thank you to staff for all your hard work on this forum.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Again, echoing what my fellow commissioners have said, thank you, staff, and I'll tell you, they seem glitchy to some, but I've been on worse Zoom meetings than this, so you're doing great. And thank you, all of you. And stay safe.
Thank you. Commissioner Ward.
Yes, thank you, staff, too. I know it's been frustrating, and I do look forward to getting together again within 6 feet and at our regular meetings. But I do have, I'd like to have something presented on the June meeting, and that is our legal counsel agreement. I need some clarification on Amendment 2 and how we could charge applicants and what our expenses will be. So if the other commissioners agree, I'd like to see something on that June meeting if we could. Thank you.
Okay, response from staff.
Yes, we'll add that to the agenda and work with legal counsel in preparation.
Commissioner Orth.
I agree with Commissioner Ward on that. That would be a good discussion to have and clarify moving forward. As an individual report, I'll just say that our water district is holding up well, that we're not seeing increased water demand at this time. These late rains have been very beneficial to the reservoir system. And of course, we all know that people are planting victory gardens this year, so we'll be monitoring that very closely. Thank you. And good meeting.
Thank you, Commissioner. Don't think I've forgotten anyone. So moving forward on our agenda, 8F, CALAFCO Business and Legislative Report. Ms. Hinman.
The CALAFCO business report is essentially that they are moving forward with preparing for the CALAFCO conference in Monterey in October. I would like to say that CALAFCO has been very supportive to all the LAFCOs as we move through these times and trying to work remotely as well as hold public meetings. They are providing weekly webinars where we can that provide the forum for all of the executive officers to discuss their experiences and what's worked and what hasn't throughout the state. As far as legislative reports, the legislative activities have been very focused on COVID, and I have forwarded the reports as we receive them from CALAFCO. And I don't have anything further at this time.
Any questions, commissioners? Hearing none, we're going to move forward with the agenda, and guess what's next? It's adjournment. But before we adjourn, I just want to announce that our next commission meeting will be held on June 1st, location to be determined upon guidelines established by the Mendocino County Public Health Officer and executive orders regarding the COVID-19 pandemic. So we do not know where we'll be on June 1st. Might be another Zoom meeting. But anyone else, any other business?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Commissioner Ward. I don't think I need a second on that. I think we'll just adjourn. Take care, everybody, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.